Welcome back to Piece of Work. I'm Danielle Tantone, and I'm here today with Declan Thompson, who I've gotten to know pretty well over the last few months. He is the senior staff for the Phoenix Full Circle program, which I talked a little bit about in a previous episode about my daughter and her recovery journey. But I wanted to bring him on and talk a little more in depth, more in general and in depth on his specific story about addiction, recovery, and young people and parenting and all the things. That was a very poor introduction.
Hey,
Declan, tell the person listening who you are and why you connected with this podcast and what your story.
absolutely. I would love to. Yeah, I'll say this. You got all the important info down to the T. So I'm Declan Thompson. I'm the senior coordinator over at the Full Circle program. I've been working with young people and their families for a couple of years now, more recently in the Phoenix area. And yeah, I've been really excited. Obviously, heard your last episode with your experience and how it pertains to, yeah, I should more say your daughter's experience and how it has pertained to your life and what you've gone through. And I think it spoke a lot of measures to some of the more unsaid aspects to being a parent with a kid who struggles. So I feel very honored, really excited to be able to do this and hopefully have a fun dialogue over some of those more unique experiences that people often overlook.
Awesome. I think I'm looking forward to it too. I've been really blessed to get to know you a little bit over the last few months as we've gotten to know the program. And the thing that caught me off guard right from the beginning is how young you are and yet how poised and eloquent and in command you are. But I think your youth is part of what makes you so great at what you do, but it's also just surprising because you're really uniquely able to talk to the parents and also the kids. So tell us more about how you got to where you are at such a young age and what you went through to get there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an
And you can
interesting
share your
balance
age
for
if you
sure.
want.
I was planning on it. Yeah, I feel like it only adds context. I guess I'll start out by saying to the listener, I'm 23 years old. So born in 2002, which can oftentimes lead to sometimes awkward interactions with parents when they realize that I'm a lot closer to the age of the kid who they're bringing into the program than being in the actual position of being a parent. But yeah, it's an interesting experience. I have to wear a lot of hats being working with families. And truth be told, it's something that I think still catches me by surprise. Yeah, over the years, I've gotten a lot more comfortable being in positions where I'm working with families. And I think a lot of that is recognizing the weight and the gravity of the situation that you're in. But it's something my own mom always told me is you don't mess with people's money and you don't mess with people's family. And to a certain degree, we do a little bit of both here because it's a no cost program, but I would be lying if I said that there isn't still some costs associated with it, whether that be gas or the money for the weekend events. So I think understanding the weight, knowing that virtually no parent walks home from the hospital with their newborn baby jumping for joy because they can't wait for the day that they take them to the 12-step based recovery support group. And knowing that, and I think turning it over ultimately to a place of God and love and respect for what we are talking about can really help with some of that. I like that you said poise. It's something that I've definitely had to work on over the years, but I'd attribute a lot of it to my own experience of one, struggling with drugs and alcohol from a young age and inevitably getting sober about 6 years ago at the age of 18. And I think part of that from a chemical aspect, you get the drugs and alcohol out of the brain. And from a life experience aspect, you just have an opportunity to mature a little quicker, I think, through years of being introspective, having to really step it up from a experience standpoint. But it definitely comes in handy because I'm still relatable to the young people who come in. Most
Yeah.
17-year-olds have already tried to converse with their school guidance counselor or a resource officer or their parents or some friend of their parents or whoever it is. And it's really easy to write off the, you don't know me. You don't know
You
what
don't
I've
know
been through.
what
You
it's
don't
like to
relate
be
to
a
this.
teenager today.
Exactly. And they'll still give me a hard time with it. Because even being 23, I think to them, it's you're too far removed from it. But it's just a little closer. I can speak their language. I think it gains some rapport, some trustworthiness to no, I really do. I understand what you're experiencing. So I'm glad you brought it up. It's an interesting one I get a lot. It's definitely weird balancing all those plates
Yeah.
when it comes to my interactions.
Yeah, there were a couple things you said that I definitely made me pause. One was like the whole newborn baby thing. And being that I literally am an OB nurse, I see newborn babies
Mhm,
every day and I watch parents holding their newborn babies and I give them advice about breastfeeding and all the
mm,
things. What I found when I started sitting in circles of addiction and recovery with families, because we did a couple of programs before we came to you, was I could see that mom and baby, the teenager and their parents, I could see them
mhm.
in my mind's eye as a baby so easily
Right,
because I see that every day. And so it really is, yeah, it's not exactly where you thought you'd end up being just a few like an instant later because it does
right.
go by in an instant when you're dealing with kids. But anyway, for
Mhm.
you, Declan, what did your addiction story look like and how did you get sober and how did you find this program? Tell me a little bit about your story.
Ab Absolutely. So I'll try to keep it brief because anytime you ask someone in recovery their story, it's you can either get the spark notes or the soliloquy. But and I think the simple version is I truthfully didn't have anything too abnormal about my life. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, to a very loving mother and father who had set themselves up both emotionally and financially and physically to be in a position to have a family, and grew up in a suburb of Massachusetts, and at a young age moved to North Carolina and went to Christian schools. And so from the outside looking in, there wasn't a whole ton to point to and go, okay, this is someone who's at a predisposition or a high risk of developing a dependency on mind altering substances. But I just remember from a young age always feeling like something was up. I wasn't sure what the missing piece of the puzzle was. By the time I was in middle school, it felt like every other kid had a week of school where they taught everyone how to be a normal human and to fit in. And I was just on vacation that week. Oh,
Oh,
I missed out on that lesson. So I was always looking for something. And I'll tell this part of my story to parents because I think any parent of a kid who struggled with drugs and alcohol really relates. I had probably started and quit at about 15 different sports or after school activities by the time I ended up getting sober because I was looking for the thing,
mhm.
whether it was I'm going to join the football team. Okay, well, I don't like that sport. So now I'm in the fall, I'm going to do this. And in the spring, I'll try to do both baseball and lacrosse. But actually, I'm not as good as baseball as I wanted to. And so I'm going to do lacrosse or whatever. I was always looking for the fix. So I was really, by the time I stumbled upon drugs and alcohol, primed to fall in love with it because I was just looking for that thing. I was living life at 4 out of 10, where it seems like everyone else was at a 6 or a 7. So I just needed something to bridge that gap. And I ended up finding I had had a couple of alcoholic drinks throughout my youth. I'll jokingly call them Thanksgiving beers with the kids in the support group. You
Mm.
had a big family event and your uncle kind of slides you something under the table. You drink half of it and act like you're drunk. But I had found it was originally marijuana when I was 15 years old. I was hanging out with some old friends from Massachusetts and they had offered it sort of as this, hey, well, you want to get into this? We don't really know each other that well. This is what we've been up to. And
Mhm.
obviously, I didn't want to seem uncool. So I went for it and was completely convinced that I was going to be the first ever person to die of a marijuana overdose and end up getting busted my first time I ever did it because I got sick in a restaurant and had to call my old man and tell him what happened. And the whole car ride home, he's chewing me out, but it was just Charlie Brown teacher because I knew I had found what I was
Oh,
looking
wow.
for. From there, I was off to the races. Yes, absolutely. From there, I was off to the races. It started slow, occasionally doing it on the weekends, but definitely methodical. I never went more than a couple of days without doing the next time I was going to do it. And then as I learned the game a little bit more, the frequency and potency and amount of what I was doing went up, as did, I guess, the Rolodex of things that I was willing to try. And eventually
Mm.
got caught one too many times. Tried a rehab program when I was about 16 years old, didn't really stick to it, left that. Had gotten into some legal trouble over the years as a result of my use. By then had been dropped out of high school and going to community college, and even then not doing too hot. So got to the point where I had gotten arrested for the third time shortly after turning 18, and my parents had just been done and offered me the ultimatum of you can you can get out of the house because you're an adult and we're not going to have an adult who brings drugs and alcohol into our house, or you can go to rehab. And me, I think, smartly deciding to have a roof over my head, went to rehab. Little did I
Mm,
know they had been
very
attending
smart.
para
Mhm.
meetings of their own for a long time and had been
Mm,
coached through making that decision and how to communicate it if the time ever came. So they were prepared, and I greatly appreciate their
that's awesome.
commitment to having, yeah, absolutely, having a parent component to their program. And I decided to go and was not in love with the idea of sobriety initially. And I tell parents all the time, your kids rarely will. They'll buy in for other reasons. They'll buy in,
Mm,
keeps a roof over their head, or it allows them to get ungrounded sooner or return
right.
back to school or get certain freedoms. But most of the time, that's all it takes. They'll find that degree of personal commitment as they're along the journey. And that was 100% true for me. Within the first
And
month,
for
fell
you,
in love
was
with
it
it.
the Full Circle program that you went into?
So it was a program in the Southeast called the Insight program. I'd gone through a
Okay.
residential there. And it was the same principles as the Full Circle program, 12-step based, enthusiastic approach.
Okay.
And they offered the treatment aspect of it. So similar to a program that we have out here called Pathways. And so I went through their residential, which is a 45-day residential recovery residence, I guess is the proper term for it. Did the outpatient through the program there and ended up just staying in Georgia afterwards, purely off of the basis of I just had built more of a life there for myself in the short time that I was there than in the years prior in North Carolina, having a sponsor and a couple of solid friends who really had my best interest at mind was more than I think I had ever really gained in my years of addiction. So ended up choosing to stay there and was in the support group for a long time, inevitably graduating and becoming a member of Alcoholics Anonymous before realizing that my true passion was given back to the people who had that experience. Nothing lit me up more than when someone my age walked into an AA meeting and I realized that I could have that feeling a little bit more frequently if I decided to get into this
Actually
career
would.
field. So
So tell me about, you mentioned enthusiastic 12-step program. Tell us more about Full Circle and that model and what that is. And we can talk at this point or a little bit later about the fact that it's the no cost program and what that
yeah,
means and how the difference between it and Pathways. But just talk, like, for somebody who's never heard of Full Circle, what is it?
absolutely. Yeah. What's different about our approach?
Yeah.
So I guess I'll say this. We are not trying to give any impression that we are trying to reinvent the wheel in any way, shape, or form. What we are doing is pretty simple. People have known it for a long time to be what is successful with people in recovery. We are putting young people with other young people that are going to be positive peers. We're trying to get them reintegrated with their family. We're connecting parents with other parents who have similar experiences and ultimately pushing them towards principles that most parents have probably been giving their kids for their entire life. Be honest, be, you know, loving and caring and kind and patient and have ownership and get a job, be a part of school, get
Mhm.
good grades. It's cool to care about that stuff. So I think the packaging of what we deliver it in is the thing that really stands out. And for me, and what initially attracted me to the program was they really understood that first and foremost, the reason that I got high or got drunk was because it was fun. And there's other things underneath the surface that I have some kind of traumatic events or things that were really particular to my ways of thinking, some negative coping skills, I guess would be the more modern way of looking at it. 100%. But first and foremost, it was because it was fun. And they didn't try to give me this
Made you feel
whole
good.
sonnet of, yeah, it made me feel good. And they didn't try to act like it was anything other than I think I had seen
Mhm.
different guidance counselors or therapists who had given me the, oh, woe is you. And I bet you've just got you've got these things and you're using this because you feel so down on yourself. If I did, I wasn't aware of it. Like I got
Mhm.
high and drunk plain and simple because I wanted to have a good time and something to connect with people over. And so they met me where I was at. They said, okay, if you have any shot at long-term sobriety, not just getting sober, because I could get sober for a couple of days, a week, maybe a month at most. It was staying sober that was really the challenge. It had to be because I found something as fun and as fulfilling. And so a lot of our approach is geared towards that. Yes, we have 12-step meetings that are led by peers in the support groups about any of the steps or principles of the steps. But we also do fellowship period afterwards that we call coffee for kids to play cards, to play games, hang out with their sponsor, catch up with their peers, whatever it is, because I think Mary Poppins said it best, a spoonful of sugar helped the medicine go down. And that was ultimately what made it easier for me. I knew that there was something in it for me. If I bought into the aspect of there being some real recovery, I was going to be able to enjoy the benefits of the social element. So that
Makes
was
sense.
what for me, and I think what we continue to give to the young people is that degree of you can still have that fulfillment and fun just seeking an environment that's gonna be conducive to your growth.
Yeah, so basically the not once you get rid of the physical addiction, you have to replace it with something, and
Right.
something that is, like you said, equally exciting and fun and interesting to a
Yes,
teenager or a young adult.
absolutely.
So back with I some of the questions I had jotted down, I think you answered these. At first, you didn't really go willingly. You didn't really think you had a problem. At what point did you finally recognize or admit that you had a problem, and what made you finally choose recovery truly?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny. I'll again joke with both parents and young people in the program all the time. I don't think it's that I didn't think I had a problem. I would pretty openly make jokes about the problem that I had with the people who I
Mhm.
was getting drunk and high with. Oh, look at me. I was pretty aware that it wasn't benefiting my life at the very best. It had a neutral effect,
Mhm.
but it was ultimately how much did I care? And the point
Right.
at when I invested in my recovery was when I realized that there was actually hope for something better on the other end. In my mind, it was you stop getting high and it means that you I've somehow succumbed to the rat race and life is boring and you're
Yeah.
just gonna do all and it loses all the color. And so once I realized that wasn't the case, it was pretty easy. It was a simple decision. Do you want this thing that's ultimately hurting you or this false sense of security, or do you want to actually have a life that you enjoy?
And
And of
really a
course, 10
false
times out of
sense of
10.
that color and excitement and joy. It's not
Yes.
really joy or like it's
No.
it's a poor replacement for true joy and fun and bright colors in life, I
Absolutely.
think,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
it's easy. So what do you think that people misunderstand about young people and addiction? Or what do we get wrong about why someone
Mm,
drinks or uses? You've already said it. Like it
mm.
sounds like even if it is this underlying deep depression or something, it's a lot of it sounds like you've already said it, but tell me what you think. Anything else we
Yeah,
get
I
wrong?
think there's a couple of main ones, and I don't want to overlook the weight and gravity of, to use the technical term, co-occurring mental health diagnoses when it pertains to substance use. But yes, I think one of the big misunderstandings is that it is done solely out of a place of self-medicating and all of this, these underlying mental conditions. I think I almost am inclined to say, don't sell your kids short. They might just also want to have a good time, fortunately. And yeah, I'd say the other common cliches that the young people in the program will talk to me about that they experienced that sort of shooed them away from sobriety for a long time was people either saying that they were too young to truly be an addict. This is just a character thing. Just think this is a phase. You'll get over it. You just need to get to the real world and figure it out. Stop. It's time to grow up.
Right.
Or that they're just a kid, let them have fun. Every teenager has some experimentation. It's fine. They're just going
Mhm.
through it. They'll figure it out. So there's the two sides of either you're not messed up enough to really be an addict or you're too okay or whatever it was. So I'd say those are probably
Too
the
high
main ones we
functioning.
see.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, too high. They still have a B in English, so it's,
Yeah.
whatever. And I've seen deanless students come into the program that have
Absolutely.
on the
Yeah.
outside, they're on varsity sports and have a 4.0
Mhm.
GPA, and behind closed doors, they're
Yeah, they
crumbling and
can be
really
very high
struggling.
functioning for a while
Yes,
anyway, or
absolutely.
in some
Yeah,
areas. Do you
yeah.
think that so what do you think is the kind of difference or where is there a fine line between a kid just being a teenager and normal drinking and drug use versus someone who steps over to the edge? Is there an addictive personality? What
Yeah.
do you think about all that those nuances?
I think it's always really tough to tell if you put a cucumber in some vinegar. I'm not
Mhm.
sure at what point it becomes a pickle exactly, but somewhere in there,
That is
it's
a
in the
great
process of
analogy.
getting there. And I definitely can look back and go, hey, by the time I got sober, I was fully a pickle. I know some people who were maybe just getting started in that process or whatever it is. So it's really tough to tell because it's a self-diagnosed disease. Like
Mm.
I can't tell any person that they are an addict or an alcoholic, and nor do I really want to. I pretty much keep it as simple as, hey, this is for me what I struggled with and some of the things that I went through and the way that I thought about it. And the language that I placed on that was that I am an alcoholic. You can call it whatever you want, but that's how I've communicated it to other people and how I find myself relating to others. So it is tough. The number one thing I say though is at least get a fair shot. I don't know if you are full blown, you're an addict, you're an alcoholic, or if you just are really struggling right now and need to get some tools to maybe get a little bit further in life and you'll be able to have a semblance of a normal life. I truly don't. I'm not here to tell anyone that they need to, but my hope is that everyone at least gets a fair shot. Do I think that I really could have self honestly told myself that I was or I wasn't when I was using drugs and alcohol multiple times a week? No.
Probably not. Yeah,
I
you're
didn't
too
I
much
didn't
in.
know what it looked like. Absolutely.
Right.
If a kid wants to get a couple of years sober and at least they're in a position to make the next smart, most loving decision for themselves.
Absolutely. So do you think that some people have an addictive personality or more of an addictive personality than other people?
Right. It's tough to tell. I think everyone can choose to look at it differently. I know that with some things, I go completely off the rails. When I was 17, if I found a thing I liked, that was the thing I did for weeks and weeks on end until I lost interest and I never did it again. Like I've seen people who go in and out. So I think it's person to person. I think everyone's got a little bit of addictive personality, if you want to call it that.
But I think there is, and what you just said reinforces it. I think there are some people that, yeah, just have, for lack of a better word, an addictive personality where they just go all in on things. Like they just get hooked
Mhm.
on whatever it is, whether it's like dinosaurs when they're 4 years old or
Yes.
so. I think that, I guess we don't really know, but I think that there's some
Hmm.
truth to that.
Absolutely.
We talked about this a little bit, but what makes Full Circle different from other programs?
So for us, I would say it is that enthusiastic approach. We really incorporate the philosophy that life in recovery has to be attractive for anyone to
Okay,
want to get
and
sober.
tell us about the what that actually entails.
But
What do you actually do?
what we actually do is both of our meetings that we do throughout the week are followed up with the fellowship period that I was talking about called coffee. Play music, go out to eat, whatever. Those are lighter. And then our weekend events that we call the functions on Friday and Saturday night can be anything from as calm as we're going to go to a movie theater and watch a movie to we've created some ridiculous game that we're going to do in our warehouse that we call the shop to sometimes throughout the year we have bigger national get-togethers. One's coming up here in Phoenix in May called the Step 2 reunion. That's about anywhere from 3 to 400 young people from across the country who will come out here for a series of meetings and dances and fellowship times. And so it really is, I think, offering that. It's the freedom that comes from being able to have fun, laugh, have a good time, have these stories. I think humans are natural born storytellers. The biggest appeal to getting high is that I might have gotten in trouble a week ago, but hey, we're all sitting here talking about it. And that was something that I craved out of light,
Mm.
truth be told. And so if I had an opportunity to do that without inevitably getting myself into trouble, then of course I was going to pick it. There's the countless stories is I think one of the big things that the kids and the young people here really resonate with.
Interesting. I do have to say though that your words for it, fellowship and function, sound very, very different from what the reality is that I've observed. It sounds like a
Yeah.
boring church function, and it is anything but. When you come in, the kids are just fully kids, like, they dress and look like the music is blaring music of their type.
That's,
It's like a
I
party,
know.
basically,
It,
and
it
I think
really
that's, like, important for people to realize is that because as a parent, at first, it might be a little bit jarring, but the
right.
reality is what is happening is fellowship, but it's happening on their level and in their like, in not a dorky way. I mean, that rave in the desert that you had a couple weeks ago,
Right.
that was super fun, and it might have sounded
Yes.
really dorky to my daughter at one point a
Yeah.
few months ago, but
It
she
it is,
loved it.
it's tough. I know. It's tough 'cause I hear it too when I say it. I go, "Oh gosh, if I had heard me saying all this stuff years ago, I would have said no thanks." But
Mhm.
yes, to paint the picture in more vibrant terms, yes, we have blaring music. Who doesn't love loud music when you're 19 years old and trying to get sober? So we have
Exactly.
2 ginormous subwoofer and speaker systems within the shop. The shop is covered in random graffiti murals. It looks
Mhm.
like a weird hybrid of an underground fight club warehouse and somehow like church basement kind of deal going on. So it's
Yeah, it's
yeah,
so
of course
cool.
there's
It feels
it
cool. It
is.
feels like you're at a party. You're like you're at a hangout
Yes.
more than a function or a fellowship. That's all I
Yes.
wanted to
And
point out was not that those aren't happening, but that it's much more fun than that.
yes, and that
I
I
think
think
the
is
fun
really
is important.
carried by the yes, I think it's carried by more the enthusiasm of the kids in the support group rather than Full Circle itself. Like even the desert
Mhm.
rave that you were talking about, we had to put a staff on bodyguarding, not because anyone was getting violent, but we had so many people pulling off of the highway, walking up to us, asking like, "What is this? I could see you guys from 2 miles away. Is this some what's going on?" So it's because you see a group of 50, 60 teenagers in the desert blaring music with show lights and a construction generator and something catches
What
that
is happening
walking
here? Is
into
this
the
legal?
yes, walking into the and it was like we had to check, but walking into the shop on any given day during the day, it might just look like some old warehouse with a coffee shop in it, but you walk into it at 8:45 on a Wednesday, and it's the coolest place on earth because there's 40 to 50 other kids your age who are having a good
Mhm.
time hanging out, speaking your language. They're not trying to be these kind of squares, as I guess I'd used to call them. I
Yeah,
didn't want to be some yuppie, and these guys weren't. They walked the
totally.
walk that I walked and talked the talk that I did, and some of them had tattoos and ears to
Mhm.
ears and some of the things that I was already accustomed to, but they had a life that
Mhm.
was 10 times more attractive because a lot of them were gainfully employed and had their own car, had their own place, had moved out. I met a when I one of my first nights had met an 18-year-old who was actually a little younger than I was by a month or 2, who had his own place and had started his own business doing landscaping out of his
Wow.
truck and was able to help me pay for rent for the first couple of months that I was getting on my feet, and I was like, "This guy's got so much
Awesome.
more going on than I do." Yeah, I'd say it's
So
more the
cool.
kids in the support group than anything, and not to say that
Yeah.
they're children, there's literally some that are older than I am,
Right.
but
Yeah. Yeah, it's is there an age group? It's like teens to young adults, right?
yeah, so it's 13 to 17 and then 18 to 25.
Okay. Switching gears a little bit, for somebody who's
Mhm,
struggling right now with alcohol or drugs or whatever. So someone
mhm.
listening right now and they're quietly struggling with alcohol, for example, what would you say to them? What's the lie that addiction tells you? What's the truth you wish someone had told you earlier? What should they do?
Yeah.
What's your advice?
Yeah, I guess the 2 main lies that I told myself throughout active addiction were that it was everyone else's fault, not mine. The world was out to get me, was the mentality that I had, as well as believing that I was just about to finally figure it out, that it was going to make everything back on course. So, like, if you had talked to me throughout the various years of my using time, any given week, I told you how I know things look rough right now, but here's the plan. And once I just do that, I'm just going to get this job and then everything will fall into place. This thing will happen and then I'll be fine. And even if that thing happened, new problems arise. Constantly felt like I didn't have to get sober because, yeah, things are rough right now, but I'm just one more piece of the puzzle and I'll be all right. Those were, I think, the biggest deceptions that I had. And the thing that I ultimately would tell to anyone who's struggling and do pretty consistently is, I guess it's less about what I tell and more what I try to offer. I didn't get sober because someone told me the magic line, or else
The
I'm
right
sure if there
words,
was
yeah.
one, and I'm sure if there was one, I would have heard it by the first time I had tried marijuana, and I wouldn't have
Yeah.
gone down this road. So it's more offering understanding and love and some empathy as well as guidance and being there. And I think offering some of the truth. Like I'm very empathetic to people's situations, but I'll sit there and laugh with them about the fact that their life probably doesn't look the way that that they were planning on it looking by now.
And then, so how do you ask for help when you feel ashamed? And what if someone doesn't think they're bad enough to need treatment?
How do you ask for help? However you can. I promise people will always meet you halfway or even more than halfway if you need to. If you need to ask for help, chances are at least someone who's probably already on to the fact that you need some help and is willing to offer it. And the answer to the second question, pretty
Yes.
simply, is I've never seen someone who didn't need treatment considering if they needed it. Like if you end up at a if you end up perusing online looking for yourself for what are the best options for detoxes or support groups or treatment centers, there's a chance that you should continue searching. Because again, people who have a normal, healthy relationship with drugs and alcohol don't just happen to wonder those things.
And so, what would you suggest? Let's say someone is listening right now and they're like, okay, I'm ready. I do need help. I'm ready to kick this thing. What's the first step someone could take, like today, this week?
Yeah,
An
absolutely. I
adult,
mean,
let's say not a child.
okay. So I'll say I have obviously less anecdotal experience because I got
Mhm.
sober as a freshly an adult, but I wouldn't consider
Right,
18 as
barely.
full fledged functioning. Yeah, barely. And obviously, I work with the younger demographic. So my inclination is to just blanket statement. If you're looking for the first step, just reach out to someone. Get the ball rolling through a little bit of connection. If you have a family or if you have a friend or you have a spouse or a church or any local organization, heck, if you're in a recreational basketball league, like I would urge them to talk to someone because I think the accountability and the hope that it can instill. I'm a big believer in we borrow hope from each other when we're lacking it for ourselves. I'd say first and foremost do that, and then you can probably figure out what the next appropriate steps are for you based off of your circumstances
Yeah,
from there. But
totally. And then let's say someone reached out to you as the person that they're reaching out to. What would you tell, like a friend? Let's just say, like someone, like one of your mom's friends or someone like, or me. Let's say I reached out to you and I said, hey,
right.
Declan, I'm actually struggling with alcohol. I can't stop drinking vodka. What
Mhm.
would you say? Like right now, let's say I'm slurring my words. We're talking on the phone. What would you say to me right now? I know we're
Yeah,
laughing about it,
I
but
know.
I've been that person that they've called. Would you say go to a meeting?
Obviously depends on the circumstances. I don't talk to as many adults as I do young people. I've been in that situation before, including with my own sister and at some point into my recovery, my own mother. So I'm familiar with people asking out for help and have had friends who have reached out because they know my circumstances and assume that I'm able to provide some guidance. Again, it's interesting, right? Because if someone's under the influence, I always go, okay, first and foremost priority is sober up. I've made
Mhm.
plenty of high resolves that, while I was inebriated, that this was the last time I'm
Mhm.
going to figure it out and would forget
Mhm.
all of it by the time that I sobered up. So, first and foremost, is if it's a, a substance that you need to detox from, primarily alcohol or benzodiazepines, go get yourself medical attention because that can be a
Mhm.
slippery slope to try to get off of yourself if you have been doing it for a long time or have been taking enough of it.
Good point. Yeah.
Um, so I always go sober up first, but if they're sober and reaching out for help, it's okay, awesome. What's been going on? Tell me about yourself. What's the situations? What's leading you to reaching out for help? Hopefully, through them talking and giving me windows into relating and going, oh man, I remember feeling like that. Here was my experience with it. And this is what I did. And ultimately, if it seems like they're open to trying to get sober, offering the next step. Yeah, like you said, hey, you want to go to a meeting? I know of this one that are in your area in the next couple of hours. I'd be happy to pick you up. Let's go to one. Try
Cool.
to
So you'd
connect them
actually
with
go
some
with me.
people through Alcoholics Anonymous. Absolutely. Yeah. If it was appropriate for me to, I'd still do plenty of times. I've ran into other young people at meetings who I'll try to give rides home to. I really do. I think the component of we're all here to help each other is such a big aspect of it. Advice is pretty easy. You can go online right now, and I'm sure an AI could tell you to go hit a meeting, but only another human can take you to one. So,
That's true. Good point. I love
mhm.
that. So we've talked about the 12 steps and the enthusiastic 12-step program, but is
Yeah.
there like a quick kind of summary of the steps that are like universal to these different programs? And then can you just speak real quickly to why they work and how they work together?
Absolutely. Like I said before, they are, for a best way to put it, in-depth descriptions and steps to do things that most people have already known for a long time. The first step is pretty self-explanatory. It is admitting that you need some help, that part of your life has gotten unmanageable. Maybe you don't know how to run the show, which naturally draws the conclusion to the following steps, which are finding a higher power of your understanding. Because if you don't know what to do, then what does? So then, okay, if you have the higher power, then worth listening to it. So all of them are, you do one step and it
In order, yeah.
naturally leads you to the next one. And I guess the ultimate conclusion of them being that the 12 steps starts off by saying, we having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. For me, the definition of spiritual awakening that I really enjoyed was a sudden and profound change in perspective. And that's what I got out of the steps. It got enough of
Mm.
me out of the way that I was able to see life a little bit more clear. I was able to see it for what it was. Situations didn't bother me as much. It gave me a level playing field, I think.
All right. That's pretty cool. So basically, the steps give you a level playing field, so to speak.
Yeah, maybe level playing field isn't the best description. I'm sure there's plenty of other people who could give you a wonderfully beautiful summary on what they do. For me, that's what it was. Like I just got in my own way a lot. I needed to connect with something bigger than myself, and the steps provided me the ability to do so.
Sorry, my daughter is texting me. So anyway, I guess I wanted to talk a little bit, circle back to parents.
Yeah.
What should parents stop doing? Like, what actually helps versus enables our kids? And how do parents manage their own anxiety while their child is spiraling? What do you think
Mm,
parents should hear from you? Or and that I
good,
know I asked you like what like
good
5 questions
question.
there, but
No, sure. I'll avoid giving the TED Talk answer to it because obviously you and I both know I could go on for quite a while about different suggestions in terms of supporting a kid who's in recovery. I think first and foremost, every family is going to be a case by case thing. There's some things that might work for one set of parents that don't for another, or one kid responds poorly to something that another kid might respond wonderfully to. So I go to every parent, do what's true for you and your family. The suggestion that I have on how to get there is find a way that you're able to make those decisions fully out of love. It's scary being a parent. I can only imagine. And I hope that I get to experience that fear one day.
yeah, you don't get a
But it
playbook.
is,
Like
you
I said that
right.
often. And things like
Absolutely.
this are just it's one thing to take care of toddlers and keep them safe, but then when you have a teenager who's doing really dangerous and reckless things, it's really scary. You
Absolutely. I
don't
mean,
know what the
one
right
of the
thing to
first
do.
things we talk about with our parents is the three C's. It's you didn't cause it, you can't cure it, and you can't control it. Now, the fourth, sometimes less talked about C would be you can contribute to it. But it's tough. As a parent, naturally, you want to look to, oh gosh, is this because we switched their schools or we moved houses or we didn't let them hang out with that friend or we did let them hang out with that other friend for too long? What did I do to get in the way? And I go, look, there's no way to perfectly parent a kid that guarantees that they're never going to struggle with anything. Focus on what you can do right here, right now, that is purely out of love. Take the fear out of the equation. And sometimes that requires consulting other parents, having an honest conversation with some people in your life. Or, that's why we have the parent support group. Like it's frustrating and
Yeah.
scary. It's worth getting that out there to some other parents who can not only give you that understanding kind of passive listening, as well as kind of laughing and going, oh gosh, I know my kid did that last week. And you know what? This week it's great. And you get to borrow
Yeah.
some hope. I think hope is a great acronym for hearing other parents' experiences.
Helpful.
That's
And you
my
know what else is helpful? Like hearing it's helpful and it's also scary, but you hear other stories of like things that are even worse than than your situation. And you're like,
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I guess I'm right here at home with these
Of
people.
course, it puts it in perspective a little bit. Sometimes
Yeah.
I need to hear that because today's world and in the day and age of social media, obviously, it sounds like a thing that only plagues the younger generations. But have I absolutely seen parents fall a victim to the fact that people aren't as inclined to post their struggles on social media? Do I know for a fact that my own mother had a tough time because she would hop on Facebook occasionally and see that the kid 2 doors down is getting a full ride scholarship to University of North Carolina to go play
Mhm.
football, and he was on the dean's list and all this stuff, and he grew up 2 doors down from us. Like, what could have they done? What did they do so
Mhm.
differently that I was,
Mm.
at the same time, getting arrested for the second time? So, it's just tough. Like you said, like, it really can put it in perspective,
Yeah.
hearing some other parents and knowing, "Okay, I'm not alone in this fight."
Do you have any ideas, like, what would a kid in recovery wish their parents understood?
Yeah, we talk about that one a lot. I think the bridge of communication between parents and young people in recovery is such a big piece of their overall success and the family's overall well-being. I think a lot of the times the kids just want to feel understood, and it's difficult. I know a lot of young people, myself included, can also get frustrated with this overbearing sense to understand. I would get upset with my own parents when they tried to go, "Oh, I understand what you're going through,"
I
especially
was
even in
just
early
thinking
recovery.
that's
You know?
exactly what I was thinking when you first said they wanna feel understood. I was like, gosh, but I feel like whenever I try to show empathy and show that I understand, she's, "Oh, no, you have not don't even try. You have no
Uh,
idea what like."
yeah, you don't know what it is, and 'cause there's some truth to that. I don't know. Like, I looking back, can confidently say maybe I'll give 'em more credit than I gave them at the time. Maybe my parents didn't know what it was like to be 17 and not sure what to do in life. But yeah, they didn't know what I was experiencing, and so it
Mm,
did. It frustrated me at points to hear them say, "Oh, I get you." It's the same reason that we pretty much only hire other people who have the experience of being in recovery at a young age. Because every therapist who I met with, and God bless them, they were all amazing, professional, extremely caring individuals. But when they said that they understood that I was going through, I said, "Your piece of paper on the wall behind you doesn't give you credit to say that to me." Sometimes they do. They want to be understood, not all the times by their parents, but they just want love. I think whatever it is, the less that I focused on having these big, gnarly, kind of crazy things with my parents, and the more it was just genuine connection. And the more times that I told them what was going on, and they just went, "Oh, man, that's tough. Love you, man. I hope you figure it out. Let me know if you need anything." The more I was like, "Thanks." Like, I just genuinely appreciated that. I wasn't looking for control. And granted, it was a little different because I lived 2 states away and was an adult. So they could let go of that a little bit more. And I didn't need it as much. But yeah, it's tough. It's something that I talk about a lot. I
I was
was
just
just gonna say, I
thinking
mean, they
thinking on what you were saying about the someone who hasn't gone through an addiction not being able to understand. And I think that the thing I would love to offer, if like the kids were to ask, what do I wish that they understood, is
yeah,
more that, okay, yes, I've never walked in their shoes. I've never been addicted to a mind altering substance. I have had addictions in my life, but not to
mhm,
substances. And I also have struggled with the same things. Like when you were saying, like at the very beginning, about how everyone else was operating with different
mhm,
information than you had, and you felt like awkward. I think, I think everyone feels like that, and so I think
yeah,
that the way we deal with it might be different, and maybe some people seem to have it all together. But I recently talked to someone, and she's like, "Yeah, you had it all together in high school, and you were one of the beautiful people." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that is so not true." I am
yes, yeah,
such my memoir is literally called Piece of Work. Like, I was a piece
right,
of work. I'm a piece of work, but I'm also a work in
absolutely.
progress, and I'm a work of art too, and I feel like everyone is, and I think that there are some people, whether they're therapists or life coaches or counselors or nurses or moms,
Mhm.
can have an empathy even though they haven't been in the exact situation. We all have the same needs and struggles, I think. So, I think there are some
Yes,
people that can understand more than you think. It's just my
yes.
feeling, but
Yeah, 100% agree. The clarification I guess I would make is that people who are either in active addiction or even for the first portion of recovery are not the
Smart.
most inclined to notice similarities. They're pretty big on pointing out
Totally.
differences. I recall I was talking about a situation when I had 2 or 3 months sober that was really messing with me. And even another girl in the support group who was in outpatient with me, literally the most, not even my parents or another adult, a girl who was
Mm.
my age in the same program as me tried to go, oh, don't I get it? This is what I went through. And I legitimately disagreed with her because she experienced that her junior year of high school and I went through it my sophomore year of high school. It was like,
Have
so
no idea
sometimes
what it's like as a sophomore.
you don't know what that was like, and yeah, and it was
Oh,
a
that's
Tuesday when it
interesting.
happened to you, it was a Thursday when it happened to me. That's such a difference. So, I again, like,
I
addicts and
love that you
alcoholics
pointed
and
that
people
out.
in recovery.
That
Yeah,
is so awesome because that's the kind of thing that I've experienced in my parenting journey with this is you have no idea. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. So it's partly just like kicking your heels in and just not
oh,
wanting
yeah,
there to be similarities.
yeah, yeah,
And I think every
yeah,
time
because
I try to make similarities, it's pushed away further. Like I have to s- I don't know how to stop trying to do that though. It's hard as a parent.
no, because you wanna offer support and love, and yeah, you always still can. I've had kids all the time, they'll tell me about a situation, I go, "Oh, I get it, man." They go, "No, you don't." And I go, "Okay, then maybe I don't, but I still love you, and here for you if you need it."
So
So,
a little
so
bit deeper for a second and then we'll wrap it up. I know we've been chatting for a while, but
all good.
how do young adults rebuild identity after addiction? And who were you underneath the addiction? How do you not let your past
Wow.
define you? So that's
What a
three big questions. You can
yeah,
go wherever you want with it.
what a great question. I would say that I went through a bit of an identity crisis getting sober because I think using drugs and alcohol led me to a pretty drastic character change every 6 months or so. For a period of
Mm,
time, I would fit in with one crowd and then I'd fit in with another. By the time I was pretty late stage into my addiction, I really had 10 different friend groups that I was a part of and related to and could bounce around a bit of a social butterfly. So then by the time I got sober, it was which one of those
who
was
am I?
real? And the answer, right. And
Yeah.
the answer, as I let time go on, was actually still all of them. A piece of all of that was still genuine. I think I just had to have a fair shot at letting it be real and not this fabricated thing around how's the who's the crew that I can hang with today that's gonna let me get high or I'm gonna
Mm,
be accepted by. Yeah, it's funny. I'll still joke with kids all the time because kids will come in who are really big into cars and I can relate to them because I had a period of my time
mm,
that I was really big into cars or some that are into
mm,
EDM music or some that are really into having having blue collar jobs is like this social popularity thing these days. I can relate to
mhm.
that. And so it's like fun because I think a little bit of every piece of that was kind of real. I'd say that. And then as far as the identity and not letting my past shape me, there's some truth to I think we live in an identity culture. Everyone wants to look to what is the unifying thing. What's some characteristic about me that connects me to other people, whether that's the city or state that you're from, the country that you're from, a certain religious background, the way that your family grew up. Everyone is looking for I am blank. And for me, I didn't find that identifying with a piece of my past was all that problematic. I actually take a lot of pride in being, maybe not pride's the right word, but I find a lot of comfort in being in
Awesome.
that club. I walk into Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and proudly say I am Declan alcoholic. And there's some truth to yes, like that is a good label for me. A lot of my life is shaped around recovery and has been molded around the fact that I choose to live this way. So I think it's to each their own, whatever is true for you. Not everyone is going to want to be as heavily defined as that. Again, it is Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I understand when people really try to go the route of anonymity. So that was me. Obviously, I found a lot of identity and comfort and acceptance in that. And some of it was, I think, for me to love my life today. I didn't have to like every single certain aspect of how I got here, but I ultimately had to love the story And that helped me come to grips a little bit with more of the difficult to face realities of things that I had experienced. It's not that if I could all go back, I'd do it all over again, but maybe, I don't know. I've never had to ask myself that because I can't. But
Mm.
yeah, for me to love my life today, I have to love how I got here.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. If you can embrace that past, then you can move forward into the present and the future. And let's see. I guess we can wrap it up with a couple advice things. So, your best advice,
Yeah,
rapid fire for someone afraid to get sober.
I have courage or borrow it from other people
Love it. Best advice for someone early in sobriety.
one day at a time.
Oh, that's perfect. And best advice for someone who just relapsed.
Oh man, marathon, not a sprint.
So true.
If you showed back up, you're in the right place.
Best advice for a parent listening right now who has a kid struggling.
Well, start talking, start looking for other parents to talk to.
And let's see. If someone listening today feels like their life is blown up, whether from addiction or something else, what can give them hope to rise above it?
Trying to think of the concise one.
While you're thinking of that, you think on that. I put you on the spot there.
Oh,
I've been talking a lot about resilience, and I've created this framework around resilience and how to create resilience. And I've created this 5-step thing that I basically realized I do whenever a crisis comes to me or something like that. It's a 5R resilience method. So it's refresh,
mm,
renew, release, reconnect, and rise. So refresh is just literally take a breath. Renew is reframe the thoughts, renew your mind. Wait, what's the story you're telling yourself? Release is like letting go of what doesn't serve you and letting go of the past, letting go of the mistakes. And then reconnect is like reconnecting with your mind, body, like doing something active. And then rise is like taking an aligned action. So
mm.
it works with anything, but that's how I realized people would ask me, "How are you so resilient?" And that's what I put a framework to something that I did
Yeah,
automatically. But I
I
think it
love that.
works here too. So, do you have something like that? What, like when you're faced with something tough or like bad news, like the things that might make you spiral, things that might make you want to go drink? What,
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
you face it?
Oh man, I great question. It depends on the situation. I like to go to an acronym that I had heard pretty early on, which was pause for pray and use spiritual energy, whatever that looks like. Talking to people, actually hitting my knees in prayer. So that's what comes to mind when you say that. But I love that list. That is I think it's a really important thing that people have a plan, have a tool that they can pull out of their tool belt when they get stuck. It's really easy to get into analysis paralysis. And so having that kind of well defined, okay, when I face adversity, this is what I will do, can really make a difference. So I love that. That's really great to
Yeah.
hear again.
Because
And
whether we're struggling with addiction or whether we're just struggling with life, like things are going to happen. Nothing, like one thing is sure that nothing's going to go how you expected it. Whether you're
mhm,
about to have a baby, I deal with childbirth all the time, whether you're about to have a baby, whether you're suddenly faced with a divorce you didn't see coming, whether you
right.
lost your job, you got a flat tire, you lost a friend. Things happen in life that are not
Yes.
what we planned or expected, or they go differently than we thought they would. And we have to have tools to deal with them because otherwise we'll all be just like on the floor drinking drugs.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's amazing.
All right. So I think that's good. Is there anything else you want to share?
That's about it. You asked some amazing questions. I almost feel bad that I
I
got a
didn't give
little
you
teed
any
up to talk
preparation
for
and
a
you should.
while. Oh my gosh, you're fine.
You have
I wish I
nothing to
could
feel
have
bad for. Nothing to feel
I
bad for.
wish I could have made them a little more condensed for you, but
No, you did perfect. You did perfect. It's a conversation and like I said, you're very poised and eloquent and so impressed with you. So impressed with this program that it feels like coming home. I love the name Full Circle because it does feel like
mm,
full circle. Like it's very good. Our journey to get here was very tumultuous. And I feel like it's a really good place. I'm so grateful that we found Full Circle. And if anybody is struggling, has a child or is a child, a teen or young adult
Yes.
struggling, Full Circle is an amazing place to start. And it's connected, like you said, you alluded to, with a couple other programs in the Valley. But I think overall
Mhm.
it's pretty disappointing, our mental health and drug programs here in the Valley. To have found this one, I think is really good. But I guess one thing I've learned is that people are going to get help when they are ready. You can't really force it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but for us, the timing
Absolutely.
worked. All right.
Absolutely. No, it was huge. And I guess to answer my concise answer to the question of what I would say to someone who's struggling is the catalyst for relief is a willingness to change. The relief is a lot closer than you usually think it is.
I love that. It's a
So,
great way to end. Thank you so
yeah.
much for chatting with me. And
Oh
I
my
love
gosh,
this
of course.
conversation. I think we should definitely do more. I think this is just something that doesn't get talked about very much because it's taboo and it's like embarrassing. And it's like, we feel like as parents, it reflects poorly on us if our kid is doing these things. And so it's more prevalent than I think any of us realizes.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And thank you for doing that. We should absolutely continue the discussion. I love some of your ideas of getting other parents and young people on here and seeing their takes.
Awesome. Now, how can people find you, find Full Circle? I will
So
also put these in the show notes, but tell us.
awesome. So the easiest way to find our information is at fullcircleprogram.com.
Okay.
From there, you'll see some of the different locations. We have them in 5 states across the country, as well as, yes, as here, local in the Phoenix area. So pretty easy to navigate. My number's up there. Our facility number is up there. I'm sure some of our social media is plugged, although it's not the most in-depth descriptions on there.
We'll work on that. It was so great chatting with you, Declan. Thanks for being on. And thank you for listening to Piece of Work, the podcast. Goodbye.
Awesome. Thank you.